What I'd like to go through now is to go back to the landing page, and then I'll take you into our sector case study area. So jumping back to the landing page and clicking on case studies, you can see here we've got a range of case studies, which is really how we're trying to focus on taking the climate information services across Vanuatu and then showing how those data sets can be put to use for particular use cases around these different sectors. Really trying to make the data highly valuable and relevant for these use cases, to showcase how specific insights can be gathered. So you can see a list of case studies here and sectors that we're focusing on. I'll take you through into the agricultural sector first, and showcase how we're using all of those climate information services for the agricultural use case. One thing to note, when you go into these different case studies and sector focus areas, you can see that this is where we really try and bring some of the additional products to life as well. So here you can see we've got info bites, we've got a range of guides and resources that have been put together that are relevant for this particular sector. So if we click on the tropical cyclones in agriculture, you can see that this particular info bite, it's a PDF document that can be shared and accessed as a fixed product. And this does showcase a large amount of highly relevant information in terms of the future climate for agricultural purposes in Vanuatu. So you can see the amount of content and how it's been put together to showcase around the future climate scenarios, what they mean, how to interpret those, all the way through to what does that mean for specific crops within Vanuatu. And you can see here looking at coconut, kava, banana crops, and looking at how temperature, drought, and extremes will impact those. So these are available from each of the sector landing pages that we just had a look at previously. But if I go back to that landing page for agriculture, if I scroll down here, you'll see that we have an end user application. So similar to the climate information services mapping tool that we had a look at previously, this is now taking that base information, but then putting it to use for agriculture. So the specific use cases we're looking at here are the actual mapped suitability regions forecasted into the future for different crops, as well as the disease risk areas, all based on those future climate information services around temperature and rainfall. So as you can see here, we've actually produced the suitability and disease areas for yam, taro, kava, cocoa, and coffee. And what I'll show on the map, you can see at the moment, we've got a lot of green areas. As I click on suitability for coffee, and I'll just change back to more of a baseline scenario. If I actually click on suitability of coffee in Tanna, you'll see those light green areas actually then change to showcase which are the most suitable areas for this particular crop. So we've got here out to 2039. We've got the green areas there. They're based on a number of parameters, and we can see those parameters here. So average temperature range. And if I change the timing out to, say, 2099, you'll actually see the change in those green areas slightly contract. And if I go from a low emission scenario to a high emission scenario, you can see that coffee production in Tanna becomes much less suitable. There's no similar suitable areas once we've got that high emission scenario in place. So, and this is available for all the different crop types. And so if we were to look at, say, cocoa production, so I'll click on the suitability analysis for cocoa. As I zoom into Malakula, you can see these are the areas that have been deemed to be most suitable for cocoa production. If I go to the criteria that are being used here, we're looking at a combination of annual precipitation, monthly average to be above 100 mils per month, a minimum temperature range of 22 degrees, as well as a maximum temperature range of 31. All of those parameters are put together against this particular climate model and scenario. And if I change that, you can then see, if I went to a high emission scenario, how that area changes significantly. And so some areas reduce and some areas actually increase in the amount of suitable area.